Kathryn, and hello, everybody. I'm really happy to have you here today to talk about a beautiful topic, one that I love, and one on which I've received several guidance myself from my guides, talking about the urgent importance of reconnecting with our soul mission. And here you are. You've written a book about that that's called Discover Your Soul Mission. I'm really happy. Yes, we're going to show it as well. You'll find everything in the link below. So, Kathryn, how are you? First of all, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. I am here at the Haven, which is the center of retreat and repose that I was guided to create. It's been 2 years, but I am headed to the United States. I'm very excited to go home. Getting ready to write and teach and speak in Florida and on an island in North Carolina and then home in the Bronx and in New York. So yeah, I'm feeling alive. And we know what that means, don't we?
Yeah,
That
I love
means we're in
that.
alignment with the soul.
Exactly. So, right with your introduction, we get right into the topic, and I love that. So, you're joyful, you're in alignment, and you seem to be on a path that is very true to your soul mission. So, maybe let's start with what you mean by soul mission.
So, every person on the earth, and I love to use the example, the metaphor of a video game. Now, I'm not a gamer. I don't know if you're a gamer. Are you a gamer? I'm
I'm
not a
not,
gamer.
but I
But
use
I know
that
there are many
metaphor as
people
well.
who
Yeah.
love gaming. And I do have a minimum of understanding, and that is that a gamer will begin a game and will create an avatar. And the avatar is created with strengths and beauty and whatever we want to give them so that they can go into the game and succeed. And that is what the soul does before coming into the game of life. So essentially, Kathryn and Jenna are the avatars of our souls. Our souls accept to come into this life and to have a certain experience in the 3D light and dark duality of this planet. And so some souls come in and have the clear intention to create beautiful music, and we know who they are, the Mozarts of this world. Some souls are here to have a true physical expression, and we know who they are, the football players and the runners and the athletes of this world. And for other souls, most of us maybe, it's not as clear cut. But there are ways to find out how we can live the expression of our soul. Because the rules of the game are kind of screwed. It's kind of effed up. When we're born into the body, we forget. Most of us, almost all of us forget. Totally or almost totally, we forget. And so we arrive, yes, I'm here, I'm going to shine. And oh my God, yikes. We arrive at this high frequency and we land on the earth and energy seeks equilibrium. So we shrink and we hide and we dim the shine so we can get along on a planet that's not shining, not all the time. And we forget why we came. And so in the book, what I'm proposing is to remember, to help remember why we came. And at one point in my life, all of the exercises of the book, I did them. I did them, and it brought me from being a banker to, and not very happy, to being who I am and living my truth and authentic and fun, joyful. Yeah. And it's proposed in the book to do it with help of angels because we don't have to do it alone. Yeah. So when we're aligned, we're joyful. That does not mean everything is butterflies and pigtails.
Of course.
But we can face anything that happens with equilibrium, balance, and staying in that joyful space. You're
Yeah.
asking me questions. I'm going to talk long on
I
these
love
themes.
that.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's so beautiful as well because I had ideas of questions I wanted to ask you, and you're already answering them. I wanted to talk about that veil of forgetfulness and that amnesia that we have, that apparent amnesia, but that when we start reconnecting, asking the right questions, being just more aware of our life, of what's inside, we get to see the underlying messages, the underlying presence of the soul that just gets triggered by experiences, people, and even like signs. And maybe we're going to talk about that a bit later on, the soul markers, which I think is a very interesting topic. So, why do you think that it's important that we forget? Why? Because sometimes people could say, oh, but like, why couldn't we enter Earth and be like, okay, I know what I want to do. I'm clear on my goal. And I know the link that I have with people I'm going to encounter. Why do we have to forget? Why do we have to complicate things? What's the goal of that?
So I'm going to give a very direct and simple answer, and also one that's a little bit more esoteric. I grew up in the Bronx. Within the house and outside of the house, there was a fair amount of violence in the 70s and stuff going on. I wouldn't have stayed. If I knew who I was, I'd be like, you know what? I don't think so. We're going to try this another way. So often, a light worker, and you're going to attract mostly light workers. That's why I'm in light. Often we come into the world at a place where there's darkness, at a place where it's not simple, where it's not easy. If we remembered the incredible power of who we are truly, we would not go through darkness. We would only be in light. We're coming from pure light. The experience is to go through darkness, experience what is not of light. And that's only on earth that we have those experiences. In addition, by going through the light and emerging and finding, refining, renewing our connection and alignment with who we are truly, we create energetic pathways. We render that movement, that passage easier for others. So the first question, the first easy answer is we don't remember because most of us would leave. Think about all of the souls in absolute penury, in absolute poverty, in absolute distress, war zones. Why stay? Why stay? Why suffer? Why go through suffering when we remember that suffering is not necessary? So that's the first, easiest answer. Our forgetting keeps us here. It serves. But also, the movement of evolution is served by forgetting and remembering, realigning, coming home, realigning and coming home for those of us for whom it's our journey, it's part of our mission. Every time we do this, you and I, and you who are with us today, there's never an accident. We realign with the soul. We remember, we reunify. And that creates an energetic field which allows it to be simpler for others, so that people can honor their experiences, even the suffering of it, to recognize the sacred behind all experience and not just behind the joyful ones. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. And I also think that the fact that we have opportunities to endure suffering or to connect with people in certain circumstances are as many opportunities as we get to choose who we want to be, how our soul wants to express itself. And through every decision, every person we meet, every relationship we create, everything we do and create, and every project that we have, we get the opportunity to choose what facet of our soul we're going to express, what part of the divinity that lies within us we're going to put out in the world. And this is what makes life interesting, is that we have the choice. And I believe that we wouldn't really, if we knew everything beforehand and where we come
Yeah, what
from
fun
and
would
what's
that be?
after. Yeah, exactly. There would be no
Remembering that
real
this is a
free
game.
will. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned that you grew up in the Bronx, that you were a banker before, so you had a completely different life before being a writer and a teacher and someone who works closely with the divine realms. Do you want to explain a little bit where you come from and also how you realigned with your soul mission? Because it's fascinating to hear stories from other people because it's inspiring also for the people who are like, okay, I'm lost. How can I realign?
Absolutely. And thank you for the way that you phrased a question. We know that it's never an accident. So the way that you phrased it was that before I was not a writer and a teacher, and I did not coordinate with angels and the sacred every day. And as you said it, I'm like, well, yes and no. Because I have written every day of my life almost since I knew how to write. There are notebooks and notebooks of it. Poetry from 6 years old and on. And every day I have been sharing knowledge and teaching other people to do things. Put into positions of leadership in different realms, certainly. But it's funny that, and the sacred was part of my life from very young. So I was very, very connected to the angels, to guides, to specific guides like Jesus, very important to me. The church, the Catholic Church, I grew up in the church, and this was not an oppression to me, although, yeah, I was a girl, and so that was shitty. But it was a sacred place, and it was the only place I felt safe, really safe, was in the church. So I was in tears at Mass. I was hiding in the closet in the house with Jesus. So these connections were there from the beginning and served me, but served me differently in the beginning. And then, so there was an alignment, even in the suffering, there was an alignment, and that got me through it all. Afterward, well, when do we give up on angels? When we're teenagers, maybe?
Rebellious.
Exactly when we start to need help is when we give up on them. And like so many, I shifted my attention by distraction and took a more worldly path. And with every step onto that worldly path, I distanced myself from alignment. And so there was more suffering and more pain, more earthly success as well. School went well. I became a banker. I was traveling the world. That was part of my soul mission. And that was the only aspect of joy in my work as a banker. So I took the path that society had suggested for me, the good school, the good job, and what was called and deemed by others to be success. And yet there was no joy in it. And so I had thirst for that. I'm Irish. And I would never have given up the drink if it were up to me, but it wasn't. Thanks a lot. Effectively, my path took a sharp turn when one day I was working in the bank. I was completely hungover. Because I was not happy, there was a self-anesthetizing thing going on, and it was the 70s, it was the 80s, it was drugs, and I'm Irish, there was also alcohol. There was a lot of anesthetizing going on. And an angel walked into a bank on just 42nd Street in the middle of Manhattan and gave me a crystal. It's an amethyst. I don't know if you can see the purple. Mm-hmm. And told me that this will help you with your addictions. Blew me away. Scared the crap out of me, by the way, because this was before crystals were at every corner and in every store. I knew that this was my birthstone. And I had never seen a groot, a stone that was not fashioned into jewelry at the time. This did not exist. It was in the 90s. And it brought me up short, and it woke me up. And that awakening was the first step of an awakening that's still continuing. What do I call awakening? Living this life as the soul. Aligned, yes, more and more, and then consciously expressing the soul's mission of love and peace and joy and light. And yes, it's all of that. But it started that day in the bank. So effectively, I was helped. I got a lot of help from angels. Thank you very much. And so I count on it. I don't have to do it alone. When I was in the Bronx, I grew up with, if you want something, you got to get it yourself. Nobody's going to give it to you. No human being is going to give it to you. That is certain. That was my experience. And that was the limiting belief that was planted from the very beginning. But wow, guess somebody is there to help. And so the book is about discovering your soul mission in a kind of a step-by-step way. There's lots of exercise in it, lots of aha moments, a lot of reopening, things that were maybe closed and shut away and put away, and recognizing gifts that maybe we didn't figure were gifts, recognizing the real thirst of the soul, what the soul really wants us to be getting up to. And so, yeah, thanks to an intervention, I think the angels were like, you know what? She might be sitting on that bar stool a while. We better get in there and wake her up. I have zero doubt that that's what happened.
That's
and
amazing.
so gratitude. Better later. But when we are shifting away from our soul, depression sets in. And it's not an accident that at this time on Earth, depression is perhaps the pandemic. Depression forces us to accept or know that we're on the wrong path. It stops us in our path, and it stops us from continuing to go further into darkness. But as you said, it's a choice. We're never forced to do what the soul is wanting us to do. We can come back into alignment or not. That free will, that's a badass, boy. This is not a game for the feeble-hearted.
Yeah, and kudos to us human beings who are here playing and trying every day, because it's not easy. And thank you for sharing your story, because it's also inspiring to see that even though sometimes we think we're lost, sometimes we think there's only suffering, there's only darkness, we don't know where to go on a conscious level, there are always signs, there are always opportunity from life, from angels, from guides to reconnect us, from, angels manifested through someone who's gonna say something that triggers us, and also I highly encourage everyone who's watching to read your book, because even though I truly feel like I'm blessed with being aligned with my soul mission from a young age, still reading and listening and doing the exercises, I felt like, wow, it's really a path. It's a path, and there's always room for more exploration. It's not like, oh, I'm done and then I can continue on my merry way and like not think about it anymore. No, it's always like it's a dance of connection, of a dialogue with the divine, with your soul, and your mission is planted in you, but it's evolving in the form that it takes. One day it can be writing a book, another day it can be singing. I know it's something that you love doing. One day it can be teaching in French or in English. And so this is always something that is wonderful to think about, so it doesn't limit us. And I think for a lot of people, they're like, oh, I need to find that one activity, that one action, that one job that will define me, that I will feel like I'm at my right place. And even though some activities can feel like it, I truly believe that it's not what a soul mission is. It's not a job, it's not a label, it's not a one activity, it's a state of being, and it's gonna attract certain activities and forms in matter in our life. So yeah, absolutely. I thought it was so inspiring to hear you say that. And also you mentioned a lot angels. I know they're a very big part of your work, of your teachings, especially in that book. So maybe you can tell us a bit more. So we saw that the angels were there for you from the start, in that angel manifested, waking you up. How do angels help us reconnect with our soul mission? And once we're reconnected, how do they continue to help us along the way?
So just to be clear, when I talk about angels, I'm not talking about entities that help us, that carry us, or these are not entities that intervene between us and the divine, the source. We don't need an intermediary. but we've forgotten that we don't need an intermediary. And this is the importance of aligning with the soul. When we align with the soul, we remember that we don't need an intermediary, and our powers of manifestation are reinforced, and life becomes a lot smoother, a lot easier, a lot more joyful. But certainly until such time, and when we have forgotten, we have lost our way, angelic help is so precious. For me, the most important part of angels. So when I talk about angels, if I say only angels, I'm talking about guardian angels. What is a guardian angel? For me, it's that part of the source creator that created us, exactly as we are. That each of us is beautifully created in perfect alignment, like an instrument attuned to the mission of the soul, why the soul comes into this lifetime. And although we forget who we are, there are seedings. It's planted in us. And so when I was 6, I took my sister's French book and started teaching myself French. No sense. There were no French people in our neighborhood in the Bronx. 0. Or when I was very young, 7, 8, I wrote my first poem. I started writing very young. We start to gravitate towards the elements that will be important to our mission very, very young. It's why I do a lot of inner child work. Our joy is in there. Our creativity is in there. And the blueprint for this mission, this lifetime, is already with the child. If we let the child alone, they would find their way. But certainly when I was young, that was not the case. It's more the case now. We leave, there's a trend to leave more space to a child. And you, it seems to me, may have benefited from more spaciousness with regard to finding your heart's dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is not an accident. But
Yeah,
it's not everybody that's got that.
I remember it. I remember, just a quick interlude. I actually have remembering of why I chose my parents from a very early age. I remembered, oh, my parents are gonna let me be who I am. And it was very clear from a very early age, and still to this day, I thank them. I have gratitude for that, because they didn't have the ego to try to put me into a box. And for me, but for my brothers too, who have very completely different path, but it was very clear. And I have a very, like, like a memory, a soul memory that is very ingrained in me of that.
It's beautiful. And to contrast it, I wanted to be 2 things when I was little. I wanted to be a missionary. That is, I wanted to teach about God, about the divine, and I wanted to do it in other countries. And I also wanted to be president. And I said these 2 things, and my father said, "Don't be ridiculous, you're a girl." And so after that, I never said it again to anybody. And for many of us, for some people, that is enough to extinguish the light. For me, it did not extinguish the light. I put the light aside. I said, fine, I won't be sharing anything else with these assholes. Sorry, but. And it is the people who have not found their own joy, that have not lived their own dreams, that will try to extinguish the dreams of a child or even the dreams of an adult. So discernment is a key, and I talk about it in the book. Discernment is a key as we go towards our dreams. Our dreams and our desires are always aligned with the soul mission. If you have a desire and you're thinking, oh, that's ridiculous, that's exactly what the soul wants you to pursue. When the word ridiculous comes in, that's this society talking. We're stretching towards our light, and there's an effort to block us. That is always darkness that's looking to distract us from where our alignment and our joy is. But it's so beautiful that your experience is more present today, and my experience was more present before. We see an evolution even in our two experiences, yes. Unfortunately, my world is not yet done, and there are plenty of countries where women still can't do stuff. But there are more and more parents like yours. And there are more and more people like you who have not a complete and total forgetting, but glimpses that remain from the very beginning. So your shining is never, okay, I got to keep my shine to myself. Your shining has always been able to be shared. And thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Just with that topic, do you think just a question that went in my mind as you were speaking, what do you think the next step is? What do you think is, in that new world, would children not forget or forget even less and parents be even more accepting of that?
Yeah. So the way that people are schooled, remembering that not everybody is on the same page. All countries are not on the same page. There are still places where economic severity has people in the Middle Ages. And so it's more or less in the Western world that we're seeing some of this openings. And one of the first things that will happen, I would say, and it's already happening, and that's why I'll say it, is that the way that we school our children will change. That there are places like the Steiner School where children are taught not to all be the same, and standardized testing doesn't exist anymore. Now, that is not to say that won't still be engineers in the future, but rather those souls that are here to be engineers will become engineers, and those that are here to be artists will find expression in art. So one of the first things that will happen is there will be more and more parents, and it's already happening, that don't want to raise their children the way they were raised. If I had had children, I promise you, it would not have been the same. Now, with no judgment, zero judgment, because parents that, for example, mine, they did the best they could. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, 7 kids in an apartment in the Bronx. Crazy. We were 9 people and there were 3 bedrooms. They did the best they could, and God bless them. And they also raised us the way they were raised. But all of that is shifting. All of that is shifting now. So the first tangible results will be shifting slowly in the way people are schooled. I have a lot of teachers coming to me that are changing the way they're presenting. And some of them are forced out, and now some of them are not forced out. Some of them are being listened to. So even here in France, where the scholarization, that's a French word. Oh my God, I'm speaking French. Where the way that we're teaching very, very fucking slowly, but it's starting to shift. So there's the arrival of souls that cannot find a place in the old way of being, and that are forging new ways of being. I'm thinking of my nephew in New York, who has a mini farm that he's created. God bless him. Finding ways to get along with the world as it is, but making their own place in the world. What I do didn't exist before. Making a place in the world, finding a way to express the soul. So new souls coming in that don't accept anymore to be put into boxes, that find ways of new expression, that open things up, schooling that will afford more and more change. And it's shifting already, even if it's gently. We nourish it every time we recognize it. And then what will happen after is a good question. Will this all occur in time for humanity to flourish with the earth or not? It's a game. We know that everyone will win. There won't be trophies for everyone. But effectively, if you ask a question, what I can see is this. What I can see is that our way of being in alignment with the planet, in alignment with our souls, in alignment with the Sacred Heart is shifting. The schools will change, and that's already happening slowly. The way families look will change. You benefited from that, and I'm delighted. And thank you for sharing that benefit in the world. More and more, that will be the model. Yeah.
Yeah.
I answered the question, no?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree with you because I truly believe that it creates space for more and more light workers to be brought into the world earlier on and for them to then have children and or just like be a source of inspiration for other people and to create a light grid. And the more it will be spread and dense, the more light is going to be able to arrive on Earth. And I truly believe that, of course, reconnecting with our inner child and then taking care of the children of this world is one of the ways that light is arriving more and more on this Earth. And I believe also that a lot of light workers are on that mission of changing education and all that comes with it. So maybe we can talk a bit about light workers because a lot of the people who are realigning with their soul mission consciously are being asked. And I know because this is something that I've lived and that I talk about and teach about to be light workers and to also be disturbers of the status quo, of the equilibrium and the balance that is on the earth. And sometimes it's hard because you know your way of thinking, your way of being, your way of living your life is not the common way. And you're here to really incarnate that, really be bold and be bright in so many ways. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know you also, this is something that you teach about, and that is not always easy for people who are asked through their soul to be a bit, different.
Yeah. Well, I think every light worker knows when we're a child that we're different, but the desire that's so deep in us as human beings is to belong, to be like others, to be accepted and loved by others. And that's one of the things that really serves us on our mission. And one of the reasons why we can't remember who we are. Because if we remembered who we were, it would not bother us when the other kids at school rejected us. There would be zero problem with that. And effectively, it's this desire to belong here on earth that is at once at the heart of the human being we are, but not necessarily at the heart of the soul that we are. And this is what makes it difficult because it satisfies us on a soul level to be truthful and to be authentic to our life, but it disturbs others. For every moment, every choice that we make where we say yes to soul, I'm going to write a book about angels. I'm going to talk about disturbing things that happened when I was little. I'm going to talk about air out the dirty laundry. I'm going to look underneath the rocks and bring light into the darkness. There are people that is going to disturb. If we are disturbing no one, we are not living our mission. We're here. This is what I said last night in the Zoom session about awakening. We're here to be the alarm that wakes everybody up. And alarm is the word réveil. It's not an alarm. It's the alarm clock that goes off that wakes up. So, of course, we're going to piss people off. Imagine that we're not just the alarm that's going off, we're also like a spotlight. Imagine if we're cozy and sleep and the people that don't want to get out of bed, don't want to wake up. We're not just an alarm, we're a spotlight that's there. It's very disturbing. For every person who says yes to their soul, we're surrounded by people that are meant to be around us. So there are souls that have the capacity to say yes. We're not in a part of the world where people don't have the capacity to say yes. And those souls that are attracted to us as we shine, as we awaken, as we align, as we go for it, those souls are there to be perturbed, to be disturbed by our movement. And often those will be the ones who say, you can't do that, you're a girl. Or you can't do that. Why would you write a book about that? There are so many books already on the subject. Or what makes you think that that will work? Or you're crazy. Or, all of who do you think you are? I remember when you were a drunk in the bar. Somebody once said to me, I liked her better when she was a drunk. I was a lot of fun, but I'm still a lot of fun. Effectively, there are reactions that are very negative and that can be hurtful if we take them on only as humans. But if we take them on in alignment, thank you, we know that that reaction belongs to them, because our yes to soul, to dream, to light reminds them of their no. And that hurts. Ça pique. It sticks at them. And it's disagreeable. But this is the soul contract. We're here to piss them off. To love them, to keep loving them, even when they say shitty things to us. That will happen. That will happen. Why did you make that public? Don't worry, nobody's reading my book. Shh. We continue. And as we go forward with courage, those who have not yet shown courage might find their courage. So that's the inspiration. At one point, I was saying to people, nobody could be as far from their mission as I was when I was sitting on a bar stool in the parks. Love everybody I met there, but now I'm where I'm supposed to be. Got it?
Yeah.
So it's part and parcel of the process. And if we can adjust our perspective to the higher perspective, it doesn't hurt anymore when people leave. Oh, I get it. I reacquired my frequency because this isn't new for us. We're going home. I reacquired my frequency, and the person was just not yet ready to come with me. And I don't shrink anymore, not for anybody. And so energy seeking its equilibrium, some people leave, other people come, other people leave. And when those people leave, we'll see them again. There's no doubt. But this leaves space for new people who are already at the same frequency to support and work together. When I woke up, I was married, and I was married to somebody who was very happy to be married to me when I was here. And it was new. He wasn't ready. Well, now he's my assistant. Took 15 years. But effectively, we leave people free, and we love them, and there's no hard feelings, and we leave them free to come or to go. And that creates more openness and more space for them to come back into our lives, perhaps in this lifetime, perhaps it's later.
Yeah.
Ce ne sont pas mes oignons. I love this expression. These are not my onions. It's none of my damn business. Yeah.
And we did our mission. We completed our mission, our quest, by just being ourselves. And if people in front of us are not ready to accept that, well, bless them. And also
that's right.
Yeah.
That's and not like they say in the South of the United States, bless your heart, because that's actually a curse.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, we already blessed them, and we continue to love them and bless them. And who knows what will happen? Because
you can be surprised.
It's ever evolving. The fact that we don't react with negativity when it gets spit on us, if we can arrive at doing that authentically, the fact that we don't close the door, okay, fine, fuck you, out of my life for good. But that already creates the spaciousness that invites healing.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. And everybody around us is capable of that. Has the potential.
Yeah.
Who's going to do it in their own time?
Yeah. And this is absolutely amazing, because you can actually be very surprised by some people who you never thought in a million years that they could have an opening or a change of thinking, and I've had that happened to me a few times, and I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And still, it's always wonderful to witness. So, yeah, it's very
Gotcha.
important to talk about that and just to let life, surprise us as well sometimes, because you cannot predict the path of awakening of people, and that's important to say. What about the people who, because someone said that to me the other day in a workshop that I gave. They said, I felt like I was in alignment, and then I feel like I'm not anymore. Like it stopped because I've had so many ordeals in my life, that so many problems, on my way, that now I feel like I've become too sensitive for the world and that I cannot find my light anymore. And so I know you talk about that in your book as well, like those dry spells where you think that you are disconnected from your soul, even though you were in a previous state of alignment, going forward and maybe taking action, and life throws something at you and you feel like you're stuck again. Can you talk about that a bit? Because I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
people are in that state of being.
yeah, absolutely. It's so important. Thank you for the question. Most of us, almost all of us, almost all of us do not arrive at, okay, it flips a switch and now we're aligned and it's finished. You were mentioning it's an evolving process. For most of us, we find alignment. Oh, I like that. I like that very much. And then we can go through highs and lows where we find it, lose it, find it, lose it. It's normal. When we stretch to our light, here on earth, darkness will try to distract us. There's a true, I don't want to say combat. There's an exercise or a dance. I prefer dance because it's creative, this process. And so we align and we can lose that alignment and we come back and forth. But so often people are so sad. The ego is like, oh shit, I lost it. And then there's judgment. And then there's frustration and sorrow and all of the things that can cover up our light even more. So the key, a key is if we feel like we've lost it, to stop, to stop and to come back within, come back within. Personally, I suggest asking angels to help us with the alignment because it's much quicker, but we can do it ourselves. To stop and come back within, because our goal is not to be so high frequency that we lose our humanity, that we can't be in interaction with others. This is sometimes you hear people, oh, I'm so sensitive, I can't go to the movies. I'm so sensitive, almost like it's a badge of honor, and it's really not, because we are meant to be living that light so completely in the body that we are never the ones that are pulled down, that we are always the ones that can pull others up. And for that, it is important. That's why this place exists, the haven. It's the refuge. It's a place where we come back in and we reinforce and bolster. Come up for air and then go back out. And to recognize that we cannot go at the rhythm of this world, which wants us to be shiny, 24/7 all the time. There's truly, like the flowers, like all of nature tells us, there are moments and there are moments. There are moments to shine forth and there are moments to be nourished within. And often people are not sufficiently aware of how their instrument needs to be opened and closed, opened to shine and closed to be nourishing within. When we find that rhythm, the moments where we're feeling unaligned become rarer. In fact, for most of us, it's not, we rise and we stay there. It's, we rise, we descend, it's a little bit like this. But the lows are never as low as they were. And the highs are always just a little bit higher. And so the median is like this. There's a steady rising. But if we're not aware of these truths, we can believe that we've lost it every time it shifts downwards. And that, well, the ego's going to jump all over that. I'm no good. This sucks. wow, these practices don't work. I thought they did. I was fooled. There's a whole lot of ways that darkness is going to try to appropriate the movement. So gently, and tenderly, with so much love. If we're feeling sore and we can't go, don't go near other people. That means it's the coming within and the nourishing period, and allowing only those rhythms that are natural to us. But of course, we're not taught this in school. So this is absolutely the kind of thing that I did, for example, in the Zoom last night. We're talking about awakening, how to handle our awakening so that we live it well, so that it's even fun. And that these moments of, damn it, I lost it, those words don't come anymore. Okay, now I see what I need to do. I need to take care of my instrument. That we become the soul that's taking care of the instrument and not the person who's lost touch.
Love that. Yeah. We become the soul.
So those
Takes care of
questions
the
are so
human
important.
being.
Sorry.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I love the way you phrase it. And also, it's looking at nature. I mean, you see the rhythm of nature, you see winter, and you see moment of hibernation. And we have stopped realizing that we are also in tune with, a grander way of things, a bigger nature. And we forget that, and how it's important to recharge in a way that, is true to our soul, and to not be always,
that's it.
focused
That
on the
this
outside.
form is part of the earth. This form is part of nature, and it does not stay open all the time. This form also needs to open and close.
Yeah.
Nature can be such a great teacher, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Kathryn. I believe that with those, that invitation to take the time to recharge, to reconnect with our soul, and to accept and honor the rhythms that go through us, and the seasons of life, I believe it's a very beautiful way to conclude this interview. Thank you again so much for your time, also for what you share, the energy with which you share everything, what you teach. We'll put everything in the box down below, your website, your books, so that you can explore and read and continue on this beautiful journey. Is there something you wish to say before we close this chapter together?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Thank you, Jenna, beautiful blossom. And thank you to everybody that's out there. I am on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and happy to connect with you in any way. And please do let me know when this is out so I can share the link. And thank you so much, bright light that is Jenna, for shining into the world and allowing your blossoming to bring out the blossoming of others. It's just beautiful.
Oh, that's so beautifully said. Thank you so much, Kathryn, and to everybody out there. Have a wonderful day, night, week, and life. I wish you the best. Bless you all.